Chapter 515, Harvests for Everyone. Frankly speaking, although Alger had predicted that Miss Justice wouldn't bargain, and the fact that the mystical item was indeed worth about £5,500, he still felt a strong sense of discomfort over such actions. It felt like after all the hard work he had put in to make a killing, the money he earned wasn't even more than her pocket money. £675 split from the world, and the artisan's fee is only £600. I'll earn a net profit of £400. I've made a total of £1,075 in this transaction, but the world isn't a simple figure. He has a great deal of beyonder characteristics and potion formulas, and he's involved in a great number of events. He's in the know of relatively important information. It's not worth it to get into a conflict with him over a few £100s. Otherwise, I could have pushed the price of his beyonder characteristic to below £4,000. The hanged man thought wistfully. As the fool rejoiced at the prospect of receiving £3,825, Derek looked at the lady across him and earnestly said, "Miss Magician, your spirit eater's stomach pouch is ready." "Excellent," Fours heaved a sigh of relief. "I'll pay £300 in cash to Mr. Hanged Man." Upon hearing this, Alger's spirit was also lifted. He hurriedly requested the fool sitting at the end of the long bronze table for permission to conjure the potion formula. A few seconds later, he wrote the Solar High Priest formula onto the yellowish-brown goatskin parchment in front of him. Sequence 7. Solar High Priest. Main ingredients: 1 red comb of a dawn rooster, 1 fruit of a radiant spirit-packed tree. Supplementary ingredients: 100 ml of a dawn rooster, 10 drops of sun essential oil, 8 grams of fingered citron powder, and 5 grams of solidified lava. Although Klein didn't deliberately pry into this potion formula, the content which was conjured thanks to him was still reflected in his mind. As long as he was willing to use dream divination to recall, he would immediately get the corresponding knowledge. He couldn't help but exclaim, "Indeed, being a platform is most profitable." Derek received the piece of parchment expectantly, glancing at it with relief and excitement. Then, he conjured the list of monsters, which were found in the area surrounding the City of Silver, letting the hanged man pick out the beyonder ingredients that would be used to level the difference in prices. Alger calmly and carefully checked the list, gaining a precise understanding of the situation around the City of Silver. After that, he selected 3 ingredients that he knew had buyers and prices. "After that, I'll be able to sell them within 2 days, earning me about £1,000. Counting the £300 from Miss Magician and the previous £1,075, I'll finally have enough money for the dragon-eyed sea condor's eyeballs." Feeling exhausted, Alger turned his head to the side and said to Fours, "Miss Magician, you can prepare the transaction for the dragon-eyed sea condor eyeballs." The hanged man had less than £20 on him at present, and even the artisan fees he had paid in advance was borrowed, thanks to his wide network of contacts. However, by the end of the transaction, his cash assets would reach £2,375, sufficient enough to cover the £2,000 required for the main ingredient. Fours thought of the loss she had suffered last week at the hands of Mr. Hanged Man and responded, feeling slight grievance, "All right." For her, how much this deal would eventually earn her would depend on her teacher, Dorian Gray. She wouldn't earn anything extra beyond what he was willing to share with her. At the end of the transaction segment, Klein manipulated the world to seek to purchase the remnant spirituality of ancient wraiths and a pair of eyes from a 6-winged gargoyle. As for the sale or process of making the Murloc bladder into a mystical item, he temporarily didn't intend to do it through the Tarot Club. He wished to use it as a catalyst to expand his social connections and resource channels at sea. After today's tarot gathering, Miss Justice will finish gathering her psychiatrist potion's ingredients, and the same is true for Miss Magician's Trickmaster potion. Now that little son has the formula, he can finally work towards Sequence 7. He's one step closer to providing me with a way to remove the mental corruption inside a beyonder characteristic. Mr. Hanged Man is about to receive one of the main ingredients of Wind Blessed, so there's only one last obstacle in his way before reaching Sequence 6. Only Emlyn hasn't yet made up his mind or found a solution. there's no hope of him advancing in the near future. Klein looked around and said with a chuckle, "Continue your free exchange." Audrey was about to say something out of habit, but when she thought about it carefully, she felt that there was no news to share this week. Apart from the numerous balls I've attended and the 2 psychology classes, there are only matters regarding my return to East Chester County that can be talked about, but there's no need to. She pursed her lips and remained silent. Fours, who was still in her languid state from the New Year's holidays, continued having a blank mind. She commented, feeling rather guiltily, "Backland is still under the same kind of high pressure as before. Don't take any risks unless you're an official beyonder." "Is that so?" Emlyn, who had been behaving well during this time, frowned doubtfully. A vampire like him, who led a routine lifestyle, couldn't experience the pain of having all the beyonder gatherings stopped. The hanged man nodded and thought for a while. Then he said to the son, "Don't be careless. Before holding a sacrificial ritual, it's best if you confirm that the chief who led the exploratory team isn't in the City of Silver, or if he's busy with other matters." "Mr. Hanged Man, do you mean that the chief could have noticed the repeated cycle of fate?" Derek asked in astonishment. The hanged man replied solemnly, "That possibility can't be ruled out. However, I can't be sure since I don't know enough about your City of Silver." Having said that, he hid his smile and presented a serious expression. Derek said with chagrin, "There are many things I'm not sure of either." Alger sighed inwardly, eliminating his disappointed emotions. "In short, caution and carefulness will allow you to live longer." "Thank you for your reminder," the son said sincerely. The hanged man withdrew his gaze and said with a smile, "Recently, the sea has been relatively calm." "No, that's just what you think." Klein silently retorted, manipulating the world to speak with a hoarse voice, "I just happened to hear about something at sea." Without waiting for the hanged man to ask, he looked at Justice and the magician. "Ladies, can you buy me a radio transceiver?" "I can give it a try," Fors agreed without paying too much attention. As she was about to leave Backland, Audrey could only say sorry. After negotiating this deal, the world cleared his throat and said, "That matter has something to do with the Church of Storms." "Something to do with the church? Why didn't I receive any notice? Is it not required for them to pass it down to people at my level?" The hanged man frowned and waited patiently for the world to speak in detail. The world originally wanted to sweep the hanged man with a teasing look, but due to the difficulty of those sequence of actions, he could only regretfully give up. With a heavy and hoarse laugh, he said, "An old custom in Banzi Harbor was revived. Some of the inhabitants became heretics, and even a bishop of the Church of Storms was corrupted. I heard that the matter has been resolved, but quite a few people died." Banzi Harbor. Alger recalled the situation of the area and explained to Miss Justice and the others who remained confused. "There's a custom of living sacrifices there, and the target is an evil spirit called the God of Weather. Overseas, in the southern continent, there are quite a number of such evil spirits. On the surface, it seems like they've been cleared away, but in reality, they continue living in a strange state. Many people have suddenly died in those places. Ha, it isn't necessarily because of an illness. If you guys have similar travel or adventure plans, don't be careless." Alger tried to describe what had happened in Banzi Harbor as an accident, one that was within the realm of understanding. Suddenly, he heard rather deep laughter. This laughter came from the end of the mottled long table. "Mr. Fool." The hanged man suddenly turned his head. "Mr. Fool, Banzi Harbor isn't as simple as it seems." Audrey immediately looked at Mr. Fool, who was sitting upright on his high back chair. Noticing looks of puzzlement, curiosity, or excitement, Klein laughed leisurely with a hint of reminiscence in his voice. "This reminds me of a king of angels." "A king of angels. The matter of Banzi Harbor involves a king of angels." Audrey's eyes widened in anticipation of what Mr. Fool was to say next. "A king of angels." Fors took a deep breath, her expression somewhat bitter. "Why is it that all we talk about at the Tarot Club is the descent of the true creator, the awakening of the primordial demoness, and the reappearance of a king of angels? I'm only a sequence 9. She wanted to look up at the sky and sigh. Emlyn, on the other hand, felt a baffling sense of excitement, having found another reason for why his ancestor had got him to pray to the fool. As expected, this is a gathering of messiahs in preparation for the apocalypse. We are the chosen ones who will gradually face evil existences such as the king of angels, the primordial demoness, the true creator, and so on. Emlyn had an impulse to immediately agree to the deal proposed by the hanged man, but the fact that he had no money had ruthlessly crushed the fantasy in his mind. Which king of angels will it be? In a rare occasion, Derek joined in with the conversation with Miss Justice and the rest. A king of angels, what secret is Banzi Harbor hiding? Alger was waiting for the answer with rapt attention. Seeing that Mr. Fool didn't plan on continuing, Audrey couldn't help but ask, "Honorable Mr. Fool, which king of angels is it?" Klein leaned back in his chair, chuckled, and said, "Medici, who established the Rose Redemption. His descendants live in Binzi." Rose Redemption, the king of angels related to the true creator. Audrey didn't expect that the matter would be multi-layered, with each layer more serious than the last. She subconsciously asked, "Binzi." "That's the old name of Banzi," Alger replied in a low voice as he clenched his hands. He could no longer imagine the truth behind this matter. He only knew that the unforeseen event in Banzi Harbor might not be over yet. The danger that could devour people remained lurking in the shadows. He didn't know much about the phrase Rose Redemption, only knowing that it had something to do with the temple of the true creator and the angel of fate, Ouroboros, but was unable to confirm exactly what it represented. In short, the level of this matter is beyond my imagination. Alger looked at the end of the long, mottled table, and suddenly the thought flashed through his mind that Mr. Fool really did know the 8 kings of angels, and that he knew many secrets. At that moment, he thought of something. Just last week at the gathering, Miss Justice had inquired about the other kings of angels, and Mr. Fool's answer was that we will come into contact with them in the future. And just a week later, we really have come into contact with a new king of angels. Mr. Fool had foreseen this. Alger's pupils shrank as he lowered his gaze in fear.